She was 17. He was 32. She lived behind curtains. He lived behind walls. No one expected them to fall in love. No one would forgive them for doing so. But what happens when a secret heart dares to beat louder than tradition? When love grows in silence and ends in flames? Welcome to Crimes of Passion. This story is not just about love. It's about silence, control, power, and what happens when all of that ignites. Before we dive in, tell us where and when you're watching. Drop your location and time in the comments. These stories echo worldwide. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a case, because this one will burn into your memory. Location: Multan, Pakistan, 2016. The sun was heavy that summer. In a quiet village just outside Multan, the wind carried gossip more than it carried air. And in a house where women didn't leave without permission, a girl named Zeenat Rafiq began looking out her window. Zeenat was not like the other girls. She was born with a spark, the kind that frightened her parents. Smart, bright eyes, always asking why. But in a house where obedience was the law, her questions never had answers. She was the second of 4 children. Her father, a strict man who worked as a mechanic, believed his daughter's honor was the family's honor. Her mother? Quiet, stern, tired of fighting the rules. So she passed them down. But Zeenat, she held on to her dreams. At 17, her life was already scripted. Finish school, obey, marry the man they choose, cook, cover, conceal. But then, something happened. He wasn't from her street. He wasn't even from her world. Hassan Khan, 32, a quiet man who lived nearby. He was everything Zeenat wasn't supposed to notice. He worked in a cell phone repair shop, came from a different sect, a different class, divorced, and yet they saw each other. At first, just passing glances, at the fruit stall, at the bus stop, at the mosque gate. But it didn't stop there. She began sneaking an old Nokia phone under her pillow. At night, when the house went quiet, she would wait for the buzz. They would talk in whispers. Zeenat, do you think we'll ever be allowed? Hassan would reply, they can't stop us forever. They'll kill me. Hassan would reply, then we run. But here's a question for you, dear viewer. What do you do when the world says your love is shame? Do you let it die quietly? Or do you dare it to live out loud, even if it means death? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters in these stories. It was Zeenat's brother who saw the text first. Then her mother checked her phone while she slept. The next morning, Zeenat was slapped across the face, so hard she couldn't see straight. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared. They locked her inside for days, took away her school books, threatened her with marriage. A man 10 years older, already arranged by the family. But Zeenat, she was already gone in her heart. One early morning, while her mother was boiling tea, Zeenat slipped out the back door with nothing but a scarf and a bus fare. She met Hassan at the edge of the road. They ran. They married in a civil court, legally, fully consenting adults. For one moment, they thought they were free, but what they didn't know was this: love in silence becomes dangerous when it refuses to stay hidden. Zeenat's mother was furious, but not just because of love. No, it was shame. Zeenat had made a choice, and in that village, shame burns hotter than justice. But was it really love that endangered her? Or the idea that a girl could choose for herself? What happened next would shock a nation. Love had given her a new name, Zeenat Hassan. But in her mother's house, she was still Zeenat Rafiq, and property could not rename itself. For the first time in her life, Zeenat felt what peace could sound like. She had a husband who respected her voice. They shared morning meals, laughed quietly over tea, dreamed of renting their own place. It wasn't luxury, it wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. She even sent a selfie to a school friend. No scarf, no fear. The caption read, "But peace is never permanent when pride has been bruised," and her family's silence was not forgiveness. One afternoon, her mother, Perveen, called. The voice was soft, almost trembling. "Come home, beta. Just for a day. Your brother misses you. We made your favorite biryani. Your father said we'll forgive you. Just come home." Zeenat paused. Was it real? Had time healed the wound? Even Hassan was surprised. "Maybe they realized they can't change your heart," he said. But Zeenat felt something deep inside her chest, like a violin string pulled too tight. Still, she agreed. "Just for an hour," she whispered. She had only been gone a few days, but when she stepped back into her family's house, it felt like years had passed. The tiles were still cracked in the same corner, the curtains still drawn too tight. But something was different. It was too quiet, too kind. Her mother smiled, not tightly like before, but warmly. Her voice sounded lighter. Her words carried softness, like folded linen. "Beta, you look tired. Let me make you some tea. You'll feel better." Zeenat hesitated, but she wanted so badly to believe that maybe love could melt old grudges, that maybe family ties were stronger than shame. So she nodded. She drank the tea. She sat at the table where her younger brother laid out rice with a tenderness she didn't recognize. "Stay tonight," her mother whispered later. "Just one night. We've missed you. Let me oil your hair like I used to." And Zeenat, tired, aching, longing, agreed. She walked into her old room. The pink bedsheet was still there, the one with roses on the edge. Her books were gone, but the mirror still held her reflection, like it was waiting for her to return. She sat on the floor, cross-legged, like when she was 10. Her mother stood behind her, hands moving softly through her hair. "So beautiful," she said. "You were always so beautiful." Then, the sound, a glass bottle being opened, a sharp, unfamiliar scent, not oil. Zeenat turned her head slightly, confused. "Ami?" But by the time the first drop touched her scalp, it was too late. It wasn't oil, it was petrol. The cold hit first, then the burn, then the match. There was no warning, no scream loud enough, no prayer strong enough. just heat, everywhere. She staggered backward, flames swallowing the hem of her clothes, her legs, her chest. Her body ran on instinct. It hit the door, slammed against walls, tried to open windows. Neighbors heard a sound no one forgets, not ever. Not a scream, something else, a gurgling cry, a howl of disbelief. She made it outside, barefoot, burning, smoke following her like a shroud. One hand clutched her stomach, the other reached toward no one. Her lips moved. The words would come later, in a hospital bed, when her skin was blistered beyond recognition and her voice barely above breath. My mother did it. My mother poured it. My mother lit it. She wasn't crying. She was remembering. The ambulance arrived. Doctors fought to save what they could. But there's a threshold, a line that the human body cannot return from. Zeenat had crossed it. 90% of her body was burned. By morning, she was gone, 17 years old. Married just 8 days, and gone. Her mother, Perveen, was arrested that same day. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She told the police, "I have no regret. I did what I had to do." Then she said something colder than fire. She dishonored us. Now she is gone. My heart is clean. Journalists surrounded the house. The neighborhood was split. Some called it an outrage. Others whispered that she had it coming. But the law had a job to do, and the country was watching. A daughter had been set on fire, not by a stranger, but by the one who had given her life. And now, that mother would stand trial. Would justice prevail? Or would the flames be buried under silence? The courtroom was cold, not in temperature, but in spirit, like it was waiting to decide whether love was worth defending or worth dying for. Zeenat Rafiq stood before the judge, veiled, unshaken. She wore white, not the color of innocence, but the color of mourning. Yet there were no tears, no remorse, just her voice, calm, flat, deafening in its control. Yes, I burned her. She brought shame. It was the only way to wash it away. There were gasps, but she did not flinch. The case had spread across the nation like wildfire. As quickly as Zeenat had gone up in flames, journalists packed the benches. Activists stood outside with signs. Justice for Zeenat. No honor in murder. But inside, there was silence. Not a single member of Zeenat's family showed up to defend her. Not her father, not her brother, not even her little sister. Hassan Khan sat alone, his eyes swollen, a ring still on his finger. His wife, buried just days before, had died in his arms, with her last words etched into his soul. Tell them, I only wanted to love. Perveen's lawyers argued culture. They argued shame. They spoke about the unbearable dishonor a girl brings when she marries without her family's consent. They said she was under pressure, that she snapped, that she had no other choice. But the prosecution played the video, the interview Zeenat gave from her hospital bed. Her voice was faint, her skin covered in white gauze. But the words were undeniable. My mother did it. My mother poured the petrol. My mother lit the match. She said it with no hatred, just truth. And sometimes, the truth is louder than screams. People began asking, how can a mother set her daughter on fire? What kind of honor demands a child's blood? What are we teaching our girls if their choices mean death? Religious leaders debated on live TV. Some condemned the act. Others stayed quiet. Too quiet. But the people started speaking. Zeenat became a symbol, not just of forbidden love, but of stolen freedom. She was no longer just a teenager from Multan. She was every girl who had been silenced. Every daughter who had been punished for daring to choose. After weeks of testimony, arguments, and media frenzy, the judgment came. The courtroom was silent. The judge looked directly at Perveen, and then, in slow, deliberate words, he said, "You are guilty of murder. Not honor, not rage, not impulse, but murder. Premeditated, deliberate, and monstrous." Perveen was sentenced to death, but even then, she did not cry. She only looked down and muttered one line, "I did what a mother must do." But was justice truly served? Or was it too late? Zeenat was gone, but her story wasn't. Because what happened next, after the cameras left, after the crowd moved on, would reveal even deeper scars. Family secrets, the silence of a father, and a twist that no one saw coming. Coming up next, a father's silence. He didn't say a word at the funeral. Not when the body arrived, not when they lowered her into the ground. Not even when reporters asked, "Do you believe your wife did the right thing?" Rafiq Ahmed, Zeenat's father, stood with his hands behind his back, head lowered, jaw clenched, mouth shut. But silence, sometimes, is more violent than words. He hadn't testified. He hadn't attended the trial. He hadn't offered a single statement to police. But he was there that night. In the house, he saw the smoke, he heard the screams, and he said nothing. When neighbors rushed to the scene, he stood by the gate, didn't move, didn't help, just watched, as if the flames were justice, as if his daughter was already gone in his mind. After the verdict, investigators kept asking the same question. Was Perveen the only one involved? Zeenat had been lured home, fed, dressed, led into that room. It was a plan, not a moment of madness. They interviewed neighbors, relatives, shopkeepers. Some whispered that the father helped, that he bought the petrol, that he gave the match. But no one dared say it aloud, because in that town, a man's shame was sacred, and accusing him meant risking everything. Weeks later, a quiet voice broke the silence. Nazia, Zeenat's younger sister, just 14, was found weeping outside her school. A teacher walked her home, but she didn't go inside. She sat on the steps and whispered, "It wasn't just Ami." The teacher froze, asked her to explain. "Abu brought the petrol. He told us not to look, but I saw. He helped her. He said she had to burn or we'd all be cursed." That testimony was never brought to court, because Nazia was a minor, terrified, unprotected. She would be sent away months later, to an aunt in another province, out of sight, out of danger, but not out of memory. Hassan tried to reopen the case. He begged the authorities to question the father again, But the community pushed back. The police didn't act. Zeenat's father remained free. No charges, no questions, no justice. He returned to his shop, hammered nails, fixed tires, smiled at customers, as if his daughter had never existed. In that neighborhood, the walls still remember. Children whisper her name. Women lower their eyes when they pass the Rafiq house. And the pink bedsheet in her old room, still there, burned at the edges, but untouched, as if someone meant to keep the smell of ash alive. Zeenat's photo, the one from her wedding day, with a small silver nose ring and hopeful eyes, was removed from the house. But no matter how far they pushed her out of memory, her name refused to die. There is one more chapter, one final piece of the story no one expected, because years later, someone else came forward, and what he revealed changed everything we thought we knew. It was 3 years later. The world had moved on. Zeenat's name no longer trended. The posters had faded. Activists had shifted focus, and the house where she was set on fire stood quiet, painted over in fresh beige, as if new paint could silence memory. But across the street, in a dusty little roadside shop, a man carried something heavier than silence. His name was Bilal. He sold hardware, nails, kerosene, matches, and on a cold afternoon in January, he walked into a police station, shaking, clutching a receipt. He placed it on the counter like it weighed 1,000 kilos. It was dated October 4th, 2016, 2 days before Zeenat was burned alive. It showed the sale of 1 liter of petrol, a small bottle, 1 box of matches, and 3 feet of rope, purchased by Rafiq Ahmed, Zeenat's father. Bilal didn't report it then. He was scared of the family, scared of the whispers, scared of getting involved. But he couldn't sleep. He said the girl's face haunted him. "I saw her once," he told police. "She was just buying eggs, smiling. I didn't know they'd do this." At first, no one believed him. Too much time had passed. Too much dust had settled. But the receipt was real. They matched the signature, confirmed the handwriting, and for the first time, they called Rafiq back for questioning. He denied it, said it was for fixing a motorcycle, said he didn't remember, said he was being targeted by his enemies. But the rope wasn't used on any bike. The matches weren't meant for a candle. And the petrol? That was never meant for a tank. News spread like fire again. Zeenat's name returned. This time, not in flames, but in fury. Women took to the streets, holding her photo, shouting one name, Abu, not Ami. This time the father was on trial, not in court, but in the court of memory. The community began to crack. A neighbor admitted she saw him holding a metal canister the morning of the attack. Another said he told friends days before, "My daughter has stained my soul. Fire will wash it clean." Despite the evidence, despite the witness, despite the receipt, Rafiq was never charged. The police cited lack of sufficient grounds. And just like that, he returned to his life. He stopped smiling, closed the shop earlier, began talking to himself, stopped attending mosque. Some say they saw him crying once, at the edge of the alley where Zeenat used to wait for the bus. Some say he sleeps on the floor now, refusing to touch the bed where she once sat cross-legged as a child. And some believe the house is cursed. She was 17. She loved. She ran. She believed in a better world, and that belief cost her everything. But she is not forgotten. Today, girls in schools across Pakistan write her name in essays. Zeenat is whispered as a warning, but remembered as a rebellion. How many more Zeenats will burn before love is no longer a crime? How many fathers will be forgiven for silence that kills? And how long before honor stops burying daughters under the name of tradition? This was her story, not a headline, not a cautionary tale, but a life, a heartbeat, a dream, a fire that should never have been lit. May her story echo louder than the silence that tried to erase her